Now, for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikwoku. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Good morning to you, Yolanda. It's midweek already.
Absolutely. Happy to hear that news.
It flies so fast. And good morning to Nkechi and Charles.
Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Hope you're doing wonderful today.
Yes, so far, so good.
So far, so good. That's good to hear. To get the papers with us this morning, we have Dr. Ibrahim Modibo. He is a media executive and political commentator. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day. There we have putting Otti, Mbah on the spot. Umahi claims all Southeast governors are supporting Tinubu for 2027. In the east, we have Anambra State, which is Abuja, All Progressives Congress Alliance. There's also Abia, which is Labour Party. Enugu is People's Democratic Party. Imo and Ebonyi, where Umahi comes from, is the All Progressives Congress, which is the ruling party. Obviously, Minister of Works David Umahi knows where his bread is buttered. Dr. Modibo, what's your take on this comment from Minister Umahi, seemingly forcing President Tinubu and the APC down everyone's throats?
Good morning, Dr. Constance. Good morning, Kechi. Good morning, Charles and Yolanda. Good morning. Good morning. If you look at the trajectory and a kind of calibration in terms of political permutations, you'll agree with me that the Minister of Works is one that has started talking on 2027, especially within the confines of the Southeast. I want to believe that he's trying, to show that, look, Tinubu is actually making an inroad into the Southeast. Because by way of bringing in all the different governors under different political parties to show support for Mr. President, it seems as if the man is trying to beat the drums ahead of the elections in 2027. And he's been doing that by way of, bringing up issues in terms of saying that the Southeast is so marginalized, that the Southeast is comfortable with this government, and that people are not suffering. That President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government is doing very well for the Southeast, and therefore the Southeast should not have any complaint. And the governors are very happy. They are going to be supportive, and that by 2027, the Southeast will form the major fulcrum of the political permutations of the APC towards having much democratic values, because almost all the governors are set to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, Nkechi, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Minister Umahi's declaration that all Southeast governors are supporting President Bola Tinubu for 2027 election is quite strategic, right? He's saying, look, including Otti of Labour Party, Mbah of PDP, these are governors that have not come out to say, look, we are supporting President Tinubu of the APC. So I think he's putting them in a politically awkward position.
On the spot.
On the spot. So now, are you going to keep quiet because silence will be loud in this regard? Or are you going to come out and say, look, I'm with my party, I'm supporting whichever presidential candidate comes from my party? And again, I think the minister should also know that the governors have one voter's card. Yes, they will some sort of influence, but they don't really speak for the whole Southeast. But I think it's strategic what he's trying to do.
Yeah, Nkechi, ultimately, politics is about power and negotiation. And it will be interesting to see by the end of Minister Umahi's tenure, with his proximity to power and influence, what he's able to attract for the Southeast that is federally staffed. Because when you're looking for support, it is in exchange for influence, for power, for representation. That's the crux of the matter. I think that's what other regions do. So David Umahi is in a powerful position. He seems to be close to the president. He jumped into the APC when most Easterners were not interested in that party. So he sort of has a role to play. So let's see how he handles that position in relation to his region. Okay, let's move on to Vanguard newspaper. NASS budget disagree over 6.9 trillion naira projects in budget 2025. NASS said that 11,000, or budget said that 11,222 projects were inserted. And we know that budget is a civic organization focused on promoting transparency. The reps members say NASS has powers to amend the budget, which is true. Senate says the 2025 appropriation bill was interrogated, passed based on an exact amount presented. I mean, every budget cycle, these allegations of padding come up. A lot of noise is made, life continues, and the same thing happens the following year. So it seems that this watchdog function fails spectacularly. Or what's your view on this, Dr. Modibo?
Dr. Constance, if you look at NASS and budget disagreement, you will agree with me that they have a kind of a two-pronged approach to issues involving the budget. By nature, budget presupposes a civic organization that is meant to look at the issue of transparency, accountability, and also to look at good conduct in the modus operandi of government finances. And therefore, they scrutinize. It's a civic organization, so it's not dancing to the whims and caprices, or is it pandering to the dictates of the government? And therefore, they have every reason to disagree, because padding, as you've rightly stated, is not something that is new. It has been there, and it will continue to be there in as much as we don't have the right changes. Therefore, padding of budgets is something that is not new. It has been a recurrent decimal. And we've seen most of the National Assembly since the dawn of history, stating that since 1999, when this democracy came on board, up to the present moment, and this moment is even more devastating in terms of padding and what have you. Because to me, if you look at the way and manner, the National Assembly members are doing oversight function here, what are they even oversighting, if one may ask? It's only, to oversight the padding as alleged by a lot of people that are knowledgeable in terms of finances and whatever, especially the budget. The budget, as a civil society, is supposed to monitor, and they are monitoring it. They found out that there are a lot of irregularities, there are a lot of pitfalls within the ambience of the budget, the presentation and what have you, in terms of finances of government. And therefore, I think they have the right, but the National Assembly should try, but in futility, to defend itself against the dictates of budget.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Doctor, before you continue, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the same issue that puts one of the senators in trouble last year, Senator Ningi, when he was talking about how the National Assembly is always padding the budget. And they say, yes, it's constitutionally their right to do that. But I think there's a difference between oversight, like Dr. Modibo said, and overreaching, because budget says over 11,000 projects amounting to 7 trillion has been added to the budget. So when you have every lawmaker adding this pet project to the budget that has sort of minimal or no national value, then it just becomes quite a joke. And I just remember last year, this was a debacle as well.
Actually, I'm agreeing with you there, Nkechi, because the analysis of budget of this thing is very interesting. They talk about more concerning is the targeted misuse of agencies such as the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute, the Federal Cooperative College, Oji Rivers, dumping grounds for politically motivated projects. And these agencies are operating outside their mandates, managing projects unrelated to their statutory functions and adding zero value to national development. I wonder what members of the National Assembly would have to say in response to this very precise analysis.
Well, at the end of the day, like I said, it happens every year. It doesn't stop, and we keep talking about it. Still in the vanguard, the EFCC has transferred, when you look at that photo there, The EFCC has transferred 753 duplexes that were seized in Abuja to the Housing Ministry. It's the proceeds of crime. We were talking the other day about housing and construction in Abuja and how slush funds are used to construct homes. And this is a typical example. This house or these houses were seized from former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, and we are being told they will be sold to the public. Okay, on to Daily Sun. 3-horse battle tears PDP apart. Pro-Wike group insists on controlling leadership. Saraki panel fights to strengthen party structure. Governor split over support for Tinubu. I mean, the PDP has a National Executive Council meeting for May 27 and a national convention in August. These issues have to be resolved before then. My sense is that the governors, if they lose this fight to regain the party is finished, because one individual cannot be allowed to control a party. It's simply counterproductive. Anyone can jump in here.
Let me jump in here.
Yes, please.
You see, I want to align myself with the philosophical thinking of Napoleon the Great, who said, the world suffers a lot, not because of the violence of bad people, but because of the silence of good people. And I think the PDP, as it is today, it has not been able to give Nigerians the hope and also the institutional opposition of which it's supposed to be. It's always crisis upon crisis. It seems as if one person, and to be precise, the Minister of the FCT, is the one that is handling or holding a firm grip. It becomes more of his company. It's a limited liability owned by him. Because whatever he says, the PDP dances to the rhyme and rhythm of the dictates of what Wike wants. Because the PDP have allowed the whole this to be placed on his doorstep. He finances it, he does everything. And even you could remember Senator Sauri, a former national secretary of the party, recently stated that Wike never loses any case in court. And therefore, PDP is in big trouble.
I think
except if it comes out from the current trouble that it has by way of, one, sacking Wike, two, reorganizing the structure of the party, because the Minister of the FCT that holds grip to the PDP has one leg in APC and one leg in this. Let him go to one party that he wants. So to me, it seems as if, the party, the crisis as it is today, look at the Southeast caucus, they say they want to even leave that and what have you. So it's all right. It's all right, Doctor. Let me stop here.
I think quickly, I agree with Dr. Mujiba, what he says about the silence of the governors and also the leaders in the party of the PDP. Saraki is coming out, he's saying, look, essentially saying we need to de-Wikify the party. And we keep talking about the Minister of the FCT when it comes to the issues going on in the PDP. But I think one of their biggest challenges are the leaders of the PDP, the governors of the PDP, who are dancing sort of on the fence. Are we flirting with APC in the federal level, and then we are with PDP, the national level, and we are keeping quiet when things are not going right? So I think that's actually their biggest challenge. I need to fix it come May 27 and August as well.
On to the Guardian. Yolanda, let me bring you in here about education. Here, we're sacrificing quality for quantity with universities proliferation, says Gbajabiamila. In fact, the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, faulted the 3.52 trillion naira allocated to education sector in the 2025 budget by President Bola Tinubu. He also said that government can't fund qualitative education, rather there should be a synergy with the private sector. I mean, all these points he raised, you cannot argue with them. But as part of presidency, he is part of them. If he can't do anything, I wonder what we can do. Yolanda, yes.
A very good point, Dr. Constance, and I would have to agree with you. The education sector in Nigeria is pretty bad, and it's something that is very well known, right from the primary level up until the tertiary. And I also believe that he's right with what he says about quality over quantity. It's better to have less institutions, but of a better standards that can, compete on a global level and have Nigerian graduates be able to face what the world really is like out there. Other things that I look at as well are the quality versus the access. You know, the tensions between expanding access to higher education and maintaining these kind of standards and facilities as well. There has been so much talk about the dilapidation of buildings, and you know, where are these resources going to over the years? Which brings me back as well to providing an international standard of education, from the education itself right up to the infrastructure.
Well, let's be sure, whether it's primary, secondary or university, you can get quality education in Nigeria. However, it might be private and might be very expensive.
Absolutely.
Yes. So that's where the dichotomy lies. Well, government schools are, you know, prone to be starved of funds, so we have a problem there. Let's quickly see New Telegraph. Udokoye versus Anyanwu. Don't leave the PDP. We can find solution. PDP begs the Southeast caucus. Remember that the PDP Southeast Zonal Executive Committee had met and endorsed Sunday Udokoye as National Secretary and threatened to leave the party if this was not accepted. Meanwhile, Minister Nyesom Wike is pushing for Samuel Anyanwu as secretary. We saw this when a factional group from that region, the Southeast, held a press conference endorsing Anyanwu. I mean, the general view is that the Southeast as a bloc should stand its ground. It's high politicking going on, and I guess it's between Wike and the Southeast region who blinks first. Very quick comment on this so we can go on the international headlines.
In the issue of who the secretary of the PDP is has been one sticking point that has divided the party and probably been the catalyst for further divisions within the party. But then the People's Democratic Party, first of all, they have to make up their mind who the party secretary is, take a stand on that, and I mean, whosoever is not satisfied with it should step aside. I guess it will still go back to the fact that they have to confront the issue of the influence of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory on the party. That's where the party leaders have to summon courage and face up to that issue if the PDP is to breathe through two nostrils.
All right, a leadership newspaper this morning, don't leave the PDP again. You know, they beg aggrieved members. And then we also have MPC holds benchmark interest rate at 27.5% on slower inflation. Here, JAMB releases results of rescheduled UTME today, although some students weren't able to make it because of the chaos that ensued. So what do you do with the students that could not retake that exam? So that problem persists. We also have this morning, Daily Independent. Reps vow to identify UTME glitch culprits, take action. Tinubu's forest guards, catalyst for food sufficiency, according to experts. To the international headlines, Daily Graphic. Nation risks more revenue losses. There are efforts to reduce tax revenue leakages through technology integration in Ghana. On to Citizen newspaper. Cyril versus Trump. What you need to know about the White House showdown today. It says Trump humiliated Ukraine's Zelensky. Will he do that to Ramaphosa? There's also Trump and his mini-me, South African-born Elon Musk. You know, talking about the Expropriation Act, which has not seized any land since 1994. Any quick thoughts on this meeting today? I'm sure.
I wanted to say quickly, like you said, what happened between President Trump and Ukraine, I don't think that will happen with Cyril Ramaphosa. However, it will definitely be a showdown. It will not be easy for Ramaphosa because he's going in with all these accusations from Trump administration. And we know that Donald Trump is believes them, one. And two, he doesn't really do diplomacy in the traditional sense. Trump does transactional diplomacy. He wants to know, like, trade concessions, alignment is up. So just think leverage. And I think Ramaphosa is a businessman at heart as well. And he's not one for them to tussle around in the White House. Can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, Yolanda, you have something to say.
Yes, I did. I think what we should be looking at is what's actually happening on the ground. Cyril has already put out his statement saying the white genocide that is being alleged is not true.
Yep.
And I like this start. It comes out strong. He's saying, look, we're here for talks, but as far as this white genocide talk is going on, this is not true. This is not what is happening in South Africa. Another thing that I like is that he's, you know, head to head with his opposition, but at the same time he's showing a united front by coming with him. And I just like this, and I can't wait to hear what happens and what transpires in the talks that start today.
All right, we'll have more tomorrow on that report. Daily Mirror, Britain's message to Israel, this must end now. A heartbreaking photo of a starving child on that front page, a victim of the blockade from Israel and the bombing of Gaza. Netanyahu won't let aid in. And seriously, everyone is tired of what's going on in Gaza, and to see that it's gone on this far. And finally, to the Sun newspaper, this is the type of story that makes the anti-immigrant folks really mad. The headline says, "Barking mad. Now we give bed and board to an asylum-seeking dog." Taxpayers, it says, will be forced to fork out thousands of pounds to take care of this dog that crossed the channel with its migrant owner. I'm afraid we can't discuss this because we've run out of time, but Dr. Ibrahim Modibo, a media executive and political commentator, it's always great to have you very early in the morning. Thank you for leaving your cushy bed to join us on Daybreak Paper Review.
And thank you so much, Dr. Constance Ikuhu. I think myself, Yolanda, and Charles, we need to go and get our doctorate degrees. All the doctors in the house.
Is that the input now?
Yes, thank you so much for joining us and leading the newspaper review on Daybreak. That's all the time we have for you. I'm Kitchen.
I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.